Should Mr. Comey appear before one of these committees, and if I were a congressman or a senator, here's how I would question him. Mr. Comey, you say you kept memoranda and notes. Is that correct? Did you keep notes on your conversations with President Obama? Where are those notes now, Mr. Comey? Did you keep notes on your conversations with Attorney General Eric Holder? Where are those notes now, Mr. Comey? Did you keep notes on your conversations with Attorney General Loretta Lynch? Where are those notes now, Mr. Comey? Did you keep notes on any of your conversations or meetings with any members of Congress, Mr. Comey? Where are those notes now, Mr. Comey? Did you keep any notes on any conversations you had with reporters or journalists, Mr. Comey? Where are those notes now? Did you tamper with, alter, or destroy any of your notes, Mr. Comey, at any time? With whom did you share these notes, if anybody, Mr. Comey? Where are the original copies of these notes, Mr. Comey? Are they in your possession or the FBI's possession? Did you make copies of these notes? Are they in your personal possession? Tell me, Mr. Comey, do any of your notes contain classified or investigative information? Do you understand, Mr. Comey, that if they contain classified or investigative information, if you shared them with anybody, that's a felony? Do you also understand that if there's any evidence in your notes of your stating or implying obstruction of justice and you fail to report that to the Attorney General of the United States, that you've committed a felony? Tell me, Mr. Comey, who else has seen your notes? Any reporters? Any colleagues? Any politicians? And I want to remind you, you're under oath. You see, ladies and gentlemen, we're told Mr. Comey wrote a lot of notes about a lot of conversations. And to me, the scandal is what's in these notes. Let me continue. Mr. Comey, you took contemporaneous notes after your discussion, which was leaked to the New York Times with the President of the United States about Michael Flynn. The suggestion here is the spin that Mr. Trump was trying to get you to stop investigating Mr. Flynn. Is that correct? Tell me, Mr. Comey, with whom did you share those notes? Since you're the only one in possession of them, or the FBI, presumably you or somebody at the FBI shared them with somebody. Did you share them with somebody? Okay, what are their names? Did you know they were going to leak it? Now tell me, Mr. Comey, if this is obstruction of justice, as many surrogates have said anonymously and many people in the media have said, why didn't you do anything about it, Mr. Comey? Why didn't you tell members of Congress? Why didn't you say so in front of one of these open hearings? Why didn't you resign? Instead, you sat on it, which is a potential felony. Can you explain yourself, please? Tell me, Mr. Comey, if you thought it was improper for the President to meet with you one-on-one, then why did you meet with him one-on-one? If you thought it was improper to take the President's call or to make a call to a President one-on-one, then why were you involved in such conversations? Can you explain that to us, Mr. Comey? Tell me, Mr. Comey, were you at any time in communication with the Hillary Clinton campaign? Did you retain emails, text messages, hard documents of any of those communications? Tell me, Mr. Comey, did you write any contemporaneous notes after those conversations or meetings? Just curious, Mr. Comey. Tell me, Mr. Comey, since you left the FBI, that is, since you were fired, have you had communications with Senator Chuck Schumer? What were the nature of those communications? Did you keep any notes? Tell me, Mr. Comey, since you left the FBI, did you have any communications with Barack Obama, Loretta Lynch, or Eric Holder? Tell me, Mr. Comey, since you left the FBI, have you directed any of your associates, friends, former colleagues to make any contacts to the media? Tell me, Mr. Comey, these memoranda or in these notes that you took, can you walk us through the custody of these materials? In other words, where are the originals? Where are the copies? Did you ever take any home? Did you ever make multiple copies? Can you tell us about how you treated these memoranda, sir, and these notes? These are the questions I would ask, ladies and gentlemen. These are the questions I would ask. Because you see, folks, I think Comey's conduct is detestable. I think he was rogue. I think he was out of control. And I don't think he kept notes just to refresh his memory and recollect discussions that he had. I think he kept notes for legal purposes. I think he kept notes to potentially threaten people. So it will be very, very important to know the full extent to which Mr. Comey took notes, on whom he took notes, what he did with the notes, if he violated the law in terms of making copies of the notes, if they had classified or investigative information, who he shared them with, the custody of the notes, whether original or copies, whether he altered any of the notes, destroyed any notes, whether he failed to go to his superiors if he thought there was actual obstruction, and so forth and so on. I think it's a big deal. That's what I would ask of Mr. Comey.